Good morning. Welcome to this week's Table Talk podcast. I am David Springer, and I'm a different voice starting this week's podcast because normally that's a Caleb role to kick us off and get it started. But this morning I am joined by Ron Bull, and Ron preached this Sunday. And Caleb had sermon stuff he was working on, and he said he thinks we can handle it.
He might have been a little busy.
Yes.
Are we allowed to say?
Yeah,
that?
I think so. It's out on Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. It's Facebook public, so it's got to be okay.
Yeah.
So I preached, and he ended up getting engaged. So that's
awesome. It's a big day for Caleb. So make sure you give him and Krista congratulations, and we're excited for them, and that's a big deal.
So we gave him this podcast off.
Yes, that's right.
He deserves it.
Yeah, one of the biggest decisions of your life happened this week.
Yeah.
that deserves like a 30-minute break from podcast.
That's right. So you're stuck with me instead of Caleb. So there you go.
No, we're glad I'm glad, and we're glad you're here. You recently went. You did something big recently. You guys went to Athens. Right. That had to be incredible.
Right. Yeah. Like I mentioned in the sermon, it was really Athens was only a stop on our way to Tel Aviv to take a group trip, a 13-day trip through Israel, which was going to be amazing. And we were really excited about going with this group and seeing, walking where Jesus walked and seeing Old Testament, New Testament spots. But as everybody knows, the world changed, and the conflict has not ended, and it didn't end before we went. So since I had booked non-refundable tickets to Athens and to Tel Aviv, we ended up still having to go to Athens, even though they canceled the leg to Tel Aviv. So, we could have thrown the tickets away, but why would you do that? So we had 3 weeks in Athens, got to see Corinth, Philippi, Thessaloniki, Berea, and then ended up taking a cruise over to Ephesus and Rhodes, where Paul went as well. So, and went past Patmos, where John saw his vision and wrote down Revelation. So I got to see some pretty cool stuff.
Man, that had to be incredible.
It was really neat. Yeah.
And you sent a picture to the group chat, or like our staff group chat, of your hotel looking up at the at the Parthenon.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was pretty neat.
It was amazing. I mean, it's one of those things you're just like, wow, God, we don't deserve this. I mean, we just booked it online, and you never know exactly whether it's going to look like the picture, or if they took the picture from some drone off to the side or something. But it's like, wow, this is actually what we saw in the picture, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
Me and Brittany's first beach trip with just us two was like the summer after we got married, and we got a partial view hotel room of the beach, and the pictures look like, you could see the beach, and it's like, but then you get there, then you realize what partial view means. It's like angled. You have to look out.
Well, at least you could see it, because sometimes it's like, if you go over in the parking lot to some corner and you're like, we're not going to see that from our room.
Yeah, and our door was broken. And so we had to lift the door to get it. It was fit for a newlywed poor couple. You know what I mean? A 19 and 20-year-old going to the beach. That was the hotel room that they would be able to afford.
Yeah.
So, but we loved it. It was fun.
This one was crazy because the whole wall was a window and facing out there, and so big curtain that would close it. But Aiden was in the room. We're all three in the same room together, so he had a bed that was right at that window. But I made him leave the curtain open about a foot or two. Yeah. Because from my bed, I could actually, anytime during the night, look out. Of course, it's lit up all night. They've always got it lit up. So I could look out and see the Parthenon all night long. It was like, that's just, so I'd wake up many times during the night just to go, that's a different look of it at different times during the night. So, it was crazy.
Yeah, I hate that you weren't able to go to Israel, because that's exciting. But that sounds like an exciting trip. Me and Brittany have been talking about that for years, about going to Israel, and I think that's something we're going to do one of these days.
Right. And I think we will too. I mean, I was blessed to go when I was like 6 years old. Yeah. So I've been there, but obviously at 6 years old, you don't remember, you didn't think about it the same way and everything.
Well, they've uncovered
Correct. That's
since
right.
then. I mean, the past...
You're saying I'm old.
No, even in the past 10, 15 years, the stuff that they've uncovered
it's happening fast.
Is unbelievable. The steps and it's unbelievable what they are finding there.
Which is true actually throughout the Middle East.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just every day seems like another article that they've uncovered something, and it's really cool.
All confirming the Bible. They can't find anything that goes against it, which is really cool.
Yeah, things that names in the Bible that they just thought, that's just wrong. That king there was never a king with that name. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they uncover something and go, oh, there was a king with that name.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
It's incredible, and it keeps proving itself true over and over and over again, and worthy of our reading, worthy of our thought, and worthy to be studied. And that's exactly what we've had to do during this Revelation series. Is really dig in. It's a pretty it's a tough book to read, and we've said it from the very beginning that there's a special blessing at the very beginning for those who read it. Right. And I think it's been a blessing at Westtown for going through this series. It's been really good. Everybody that's preached on it, I feel like, has really put heart and thought and into their sermons, and not just taking it lightly. I think it's been a serious one, and I think it's been a blessing. You preached this Sunday.
Right.
And what was your chapters? I should know that off the top of my head.
17 and 18, and then I did the first 10 verses of 19. So basically a little over 2 chapters.
Yeah. And we talked about this. Me and Caleb talked about this a few weeks ago. The chapters and verses were added in later. Right. And so where you stop and where you begin gets a little bit funny because it's like, well, why are you going into that next? Well, that wasn't there originally. So you want to make sure that you're getting a full thought in as you're preaching on this. Did you have anything in it that was like, as you were going that was challenging to you? I know that's not one of the questions that I had sent out to you, or one of our kind of go. But I just, as I'm thinking about it, it's like when I was doing the 7 churches, I preached on the 7 churches in Revelation, and what was hard for me was, well, and I think this is probably for all of them, so much, and I could talk about so much, and each one of those weeks, each one of those churches could take a week to be preached on, and to get that into a sermon. That was my biggest challenge, and one of the things that I really struggled with, and taking that and making sure that it went to me personally. How about you? What was some of the things that was challenging coming into this?
Yeah, so I mean, going into this series completely, and I said this in the sermon, is I mean, in my past, Revelation was really always taught as something that's trying to predict the future and trying to tell us how the world and when the world will end and who will be ruling when the world ends. And then we try to identify those people in Revelation. So we're trying to use it as this book, and people argue about, oh no, it's this person, that person. And then they put out a date, and the date ends up going past. And I mean, like it or not, if you pick a date and the date passes, you're wrong, right? I mean, and it just keeps happening. So it's like, is that really what this is about? And so then trying to understand it as, this is a letter. First of all, it's a vision that John sees, but it's also then he writes it down on purpose to send to these churches to communicate something, right? And is he really trying to say, hey, be careful about these things that are going to come in the future and watch for them, and you'll be able to figure this out now, and you'll know who's coming? Well, if that was the case, it didn't do them any good because they lived 2,000 years ago, right? And Jesus hasn't come back yet. Yeah. So why would he be telling them that information if it's not very helpful to them? So what is he trying to get across? And the 2 things that I brought out on this one is he's trying to encourage them. That's for sure. All the way through Revelation, he is encouraging them that there is a better day coming, and we'll see that in the next couple chapters. But it's also a warning. And so then as you look at that and you try to, like you're talking about the churches, always trying to be mindful of those 7 churches. Why is he writing this to them? And you talked about how you could have talked a lot about each church. Now, what's interesting is he says very little to some churches, like very small amount. And then others is like, wow, a big old thing. But even to understand where that church is, what was going on in that church, some of them had, like one church had just experienced an earthquake, and the building had been destroyed. So somewhere in there, they had to rebuild it. When is it in that period, and why is he writing these particular things to them? All that stuff to me is fascinating. Probably the biggest challenge for me trying to figure out what he's saying in history at that moment is trying to figure out when in history it was written.
Sure.
Which is a challenge that if you read commentators, if you listen to preachers, nobody knows for sure. People think they do, but in general, they fall into two camps. They fall into either it was written before the temple was destroyed in Jerusalem, which probably puts it under Nero, which probably puts it about 64 AD, or it was written long after the temple was destroyed. Not long after, 30 years after, 40 years after the temple was destroyed in like 96 AD. And they've got reasons why they picked the different ones, but it definitely changes what those churches might have been experiencing, whether Nero was emperor or whether this other person was emperor, and I can't remember his name, Diocletian or something. I can't remember. It starts with a D. Yeah. So anyway, and that would just make a difference. And whether the temple had already been destroyed, because every Jew throughout the world would have known when the temple was destroyed, right? That information would have been passed quickly. Yeah. And it would have felt like the end of the world for Jews.
It would have been heavy on their mind. And the biggest conversation, or the biggest evidence that people would put forward for the earlier date, which is, hey, if this temple would have been destroyed, they would have mentioned that.
It seems like that's true of all of the New Testament books. That's why even when people try to date any of the letters of Paul after the destruction of the temple, it's like, wouldn't that have come up? Like, wouldn't Paul have said to the Thessalonians, or the Thessalonians, or the Colossians, or whatever? Wouldn't he have said that? Yeah, and he didn't. So we kind of, at least my view tends to be, I think they were probably all written before the destruction of the temple, and some of the things that he says then in Revelation that John talks about would have been very shocking for them to even imagine. I mean, I think he's given some hints that the temple's going to be destroyed, and that would be mind-blowing for anybody before it actually happened. Yeah.
And the reason that this may be, why this question could be important for identifying the prostitute in these chapters.
Exactly.
Because you were saying that there's the prevailing view, or the one that most people keep,
the later writing date. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and that it seems like is the most common.
It is, and the reason that the biggest reason people, scholars tend to think that is early Christian writers. There's an early Christian writer, I think he's like 200 AD, so not long after, maybe 100 years after, who names the emperor that was there when John was writing this. And that guy was in power in the late, like 96 AD. Yeah. But the name he uses is also like a middle name for Nero or something. Yeah. So it's like he could have been referring to Nero and people misunderstood what he was actually saying. So it's hard to tell exactly, but it does make a huge difference on who John might be referring to when he's writing to these particular readers at a certain time in history.
Yeah. And what's important about that is that doesn't necessarily change the overall message of what your message was on Sunday.
That's right.
It doesn't change the overall message, but it could change some of the details and how we read it. So Sunday you talked about it as Rome.
Right.
But you were talking this morning that there's the other view is that it could be Israel.
Right. It could be referring to Jerusalem. He seems to be talking about a city, so it's probably Rome, and he's saying Babylon, right? Yeah. So that's a city, and he's referring to it, but it's like, obviously he's not talking about Babylon. This is Babylon is a trope. It's like he's just using them as an example. Yeah. But he's referring to some other city. So Rome, the woman is sitting on a beast that has 7 heads. That would be really clear to anybody that he's talking about Rome when he's talking about that. But is that the beast is the location of Rome, right? Why would Rome be sitting on Rome?
Yeah.
Could be, like maybe he's just overemphasizing the point, and she's also Rome. But some scholars and some preachers have brought out that what if the actual prostitute is Jerusalem? What if Israel, you know, the nation of the Jewish people, are actually the ones that are prostituting themselves? And again, it's not about adultery. It's really about idolatry, right?
Yeah.
So it's a symbol for our unfaithfulness to God is similar to what a man or woman's unfaithfulness to their spouse would be.
Yeah.
So it's not really adultery, although adultery could play into our idolatry.
Yeah.
That's not what it's really about.
Yeah. You're throughout the whole Bible, this view of prostituting themselves out.
Yeah.
Israel, God's people, prostituting them out to other people is very common. It's in Proverbs. It's in
the book of Hosea.
Yeah.
It's a symbol of him loving, even though his wife was
promiscuous and running around on him
and going, hey, this is what it's like for God to love Israel even in the midst of this, and he's going to stay faithful to her.
Yeah, it should actually be an encouragement to us.
Yes,
which is
because we're all guilty of it.
Yes, we all Christ as the bridegroom, we as the bride, we're all unfaithful, and we all fall away and we all run away at times, but then he always loves us and he chases us, just like Hosea says it. But that does change. It's just it changes the view of what of who this is.
Yeah, and when you read it that way, it brings out some really cool stuff, because I brought out in the sermon that John is like amazed, like his jaw drops when he sees this prostitute on this beast. And it could be that it's because he's being seduced as well. Like she's so enamoring that he's being sucked in. But if it's Jerusalem, it would be the same woman who also showed up in chapter 13, who we cheered for because she had the baby, she had the son, and God protected her, right, in the midst of that, and protected the son. And we go, that's Jesus, and so that's got to be Mary. But it's not just Mary; it's more than Mary. It seems like as it goes on, it's Israel, it's Jerusalem. And so then, could it be possible that John, when he sees this woman, this prostitute on this beast, goes, I recognize her. Like the astonishment is, oh my word, like that is the same woman. That's who that's the center of our belief system, is Jerusalem, right? So it's like, oh my, she's prostituted herself now. And it's like, it's very applicable. And then when it talks about it being destroyed, like it says, Babylon's fallen. Rome was destroyed, but not fully, not really completely. The Roman Empire actually split into two. If you study history, right, had the Western, it had the Eastern. The Western ended way earlier. The Ottomans were the Eastern, and they were another 1,500 years or something. Really, in history, it wasn't that long ago when the Eastern Roman Empire finally destroyed, and it actually centered itself at that point over in Constantinople. We moved the headquarters there in like 200 something AD, and then that eventually now is the capital of Turkey. I left my mind, but anyway, Istanbul. Yeah. So that was the center of the Eastern Roman Empire that lasted a lot longer. So if John is referring to, hey, Babylon's going to fall, and he's talking about the Roman Empire, it's a long ways out. Yeah. But if he's talking about Jerusalem, and if this was written in 64, let's say 64 AD under Nero, it's 6 years later. These people could not imagine that Babylon, it being Jerusalem, was going to be destroyed. Yeah. And yet, it's exactly what happened. And I mentioned it's wild to find out that, and this is through history, they've got historical records of this, that the gold and silver and all the stuff that they plundered from destroying the temple, going into Jerusalem and destroying it, they used to build the Roman Colosseum. It's like, wow. I mean, So they took God's house and said, "Hey, we could use this to build us a nice little, theater here that we could kill people in."
Yeah, and that all that confirm. And you were saying that about the gold and stuff. Jesus calls John's calling a shot. If this is the case, John's calling a shot here from what he has seen from Christ in this vision, calling a shot that, and Jesus had said even earlier, and he said, "No rock will be left unturned."
Yeah.
And what's I think I talked about this in a sermon, is when they destroyed the temple, the gold that was lining those walls melted into the rock, and they were turning up those rocks to get that gold out from under it, because they burned it down. And to get to the gold that had dripped down, they had to tear up all the rocks, and they were peeling. It's like all of calling their shots years before this happened, and that sounds like another super viable,
right?
Like could definitely be what he was saying.
And when you take that theory, then you look at John is telling them, "Hey, stay faithful, even in the midst of it." So he's telling them right before the temple is destroyed. Okay, even in the midst of all of this, stay faithful to God. Don't get sucked in. Don't get sucked into Rome. Don't get sucked into Jerusalem that has now been, prostituted. Don't get sucked into that. Instead, make sure you stay faithful all the way to the end, because God is going to win in the end.
Yeah.
Because I would say that if you were a Jew and you're hearing that this is being destroyed in your lifetime, you're like, "Oh my word, like this, the end is here."
Yeah.
And he's like, don't, that's not it. In fact, he even gives them things to look for the end. This won't be the end. Like, just stay faithful.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is because of what Jesus said, and with this, it could be because of what John said too. What you saw was right before the temple, or right before Rome came and just completely destroyed Israel, Jerusalem, before they completely sieged it and just put it into rubble. Before that happened, there was a huge exiting of Christians. Christians left because they left and they went all over the world because they said, "Well, hey, this isn't we know what Jesus said about this place. We don't." And it could also be, we know what Jesus said about it, and we know what John said about it a couple years ago. We see what's happening. We're not going to stay here and try to fight for this or try to defend this place. We're gonna trust what Jesus said. We're gonna trust what John said, and we're gonna go out. And what is actually probably a big factor in how the gospel spread so quickly. Which is really neat too, because it looks back at the Tower of Babel. It looks back at all these things where God said, "Go out, be fruitful and multiply," and people tend to stay where they are,
right? And
God takes away whatever's keeping them there, and they get disperse out and finally do what He's telling them to do, and that's what seems to happen after that.
And all that to me blows my mind that only God could have planned the timing in all of world history. When you look at a timeline and you look at all that went on, if you really like history and you start studying all of it, at the time when Jesus came, for the Roman Empire to be in place, Caesar had already ruled, right? They had already had that. So they put roads throughout, and all of it's like one country, basically. Like they've taken over all these countries. So at that time, for Paul, like as I walked this last a couple months ago on the Via Egnatia, which is a road that Rome had built that would connect all the way from basically from Istanbul all the way to the edge of where you could cross the and get to Italy. So I mean, it's all these roads that lead to Italy. Like he was able to walk on this road that did not exist before this, and after this, it eventually got it. I mean, you can still walk on parts of it, but it's just like people have it in their backyard. Yeah, like it's just there. It's not a road anymore. It's just, I mean, it's still rocks, and it's very clear that it's this old Roman path. So Jesus came at the perfect time for people to be able to go. Like I read the part where Paul goes to Berea and he's there with Timothy and Silas. And then there's some trouble stirs up in Berea, and they say, hey, Paul, you need to go. Like, we're going to send you out, and we'll come join you later. And so they send him, some of the believers took him in a boat and took him down to Athens, dropped him off, and went back to go get Timothy and Silas. Now, when you look at that nowadays, you go, first of all, to be in a city like Athens by yourself, like even today, if you were to show up there by yourself, you just wander around, you'd feel kind of intimidated. It's just a huge city.
Yeah.
In that day and age, for him to show up in Athens and then just be dropped off, and like you could get killed, like you don't know, right?
Yeah.
But because he was a Roman citizen, and because the Roman Empire had taken over all of that area, he actually wouldn't be worried about being killed because he could go, I'm a Roman citizen. You can't kill me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can try me and whatever, but you can't just kill me because I can appeal to Caesar.
Yeah. Yeah. You think being an American is a huge advantage right now? Times that by 10 with being a Roman citizen. And also what's neat about it is it broke down so many country barriers.
Right.
Which is like right now, if we were trying to do this right now, I can't just get in a boat and go to Athens. I have to get passports. I have to get okayed. They're going to check me. They're going to check my, what problems have you been causing over there? And that can't do it. And at that point, Paul was able to travel freely. The Christians in general, or the early church Christians were able to travel generally fairly free under Rome and go from place to place. It was the perfect timing for all of that. Now we said the general, whether you take the early or the later, that doesn't change the main point. And the phrase that you used was seduction leads to destruction. Is that correct?
Right. Seduction always leads to destruction.
Yeah. And could you expound on that just a little bit?
Anybody who's trying to seduce you, obviously seduce comes with the element of manipulation, right? It'd be one thing if I just want you to be my friend, right? But if I'm trying to seduce you, there's manipulation there, right? Well, we know if you're being manipulated and you're being seduced into whatever that is, it could just be a relationship. But if the person who is the other person in the relationship is trying to seduce you into it, they're trying to manipulate you. Yeah. And manipulation is never good, right? Yeah. And it always leads to destruction.
Yeah.
But we're so, as humans, we're so bad about being seduced. And it's not just in relationships. It's that nice car. And you go, man, my car's, I got all these problems with it, but man, I'd sure like to have this car that's got all the bells and whistles and whatever. And we get seduced into thinking that our life will just be so much better if we buy that. And every time we find out, maybe it's good for a while, but it never lasts. So what we were kind of told maybe in our own mind or through the Satan trying to lure us is there's this, attraction that we go, this is going to fix my problems. Yeah. And sometimes we even think it'll fix our problems so much that we would sacrifice our values. Like, if I have to cheat just a little bit, it's like, but the end outweighs the means, right? Like this is worth it. Yeah. And what we find out, we were being lied to all along, and we sacrificed our values even to get something that turned out it did not have the promised payoff. Yeah,
and the prostitute part of that is perfect in the sense of Jesus isn't seducing us. He didn't come to. Right. There's nowhere it talks about him as the bridegroom seducing us or trying to get us. It's like, no, I'm here sacrificing for you. Right. And like when it talks about men love your wives as Christ loved the church, it's like he sacrificed. How did he love the church? He sacrificed. Right. And it's not a seduction thing and a marriage based on a seduction or just isn't going to last. It has to be on sacrifice and putting the other first, and your desire comes out of your love and your the sacrifice you're willing to make and what you're willing to do for them. That's what actual love and commitment looks like. The seduction part of it is the part that will fail and it'll go away.
Right. It's the bait and switch. And in today in America's dating system, which we could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah, that's another whole podcast.
But a lot of it has been structured where it's like you put on your best face, right? I'm gonna be the best version of myself while this person gets to know me. But it's not really who you are, right? The beautiful thing about Jesus is it is who he is. Like, he's not faking it. He's not going, let me pretend to love you. I'm going to pretend, and then you'll eventually come, and then I can get you to do whatever I want. It's like, no, he's actually showing what unconditional love looks like. And it's going to be the same whether you accept him or not. He's just loving. Yeah. That's just all it is.
Yeah.
So it's different than the American dating system.
Yeah. And Isaiah 52 would agree with it. It says he had no beauty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. Right. And it's like, his love for us is way bigger than just, in our relationship with him is way bigger and way better than just seduction or just some kind of attraction type thing. It's like, no, this is true love. You did a great job on Sunday.
Thank you.
And I thought, I feel like the series is going well.
Yeah, it's almost over. We got 2 more weeks, and it ends on. The one part of Revelation I have always loved reading, even when I didn't like the fact that it was being interpreted as, the end of the world and when it was and all. Is the very end when it's like, here's what the New Jerusalem will look like when we actually get to be in the presence of God, and it says there will be no night because he is the sun. He will provide light to every moment of our life. Yeah. And what everybody loves is there will be no more mourning. There will be no more, and what mourning by MOU, right? In mourning, no more crying, no more death, no more, all the things, cancer, no more cancer. Man, wouldn't that be amazing? That's what we all long for.
Yeah. We're wrapping up this series, wrapping up the Bible, and so it's all good news, which is what we've been saying throughout this whole thing is like, for people whose faith is in Jesus, this isn't bad news. This isn't scary news. This is good news. And so that's really exciting. Thanks for joining today and jumping in. I really enjoyed it. And thank you for jumping on and listening or watching this week's Table Talk podcast. Join us again next week as we are finishing up this series. We got breakfast on Sunday, so make sure you come and enjoy breakfast. We'll see you guys next week.